Imagine yourself right now, laughing, making plans, feeling anger, loving and disliking. Then suddenly, without warning, without a set time, without even the chance for a final goodbye, everything stops. Your breath fades and the page of your life is closed forever. No wealth will follow you, no fame, no image. Nothing remains with you except what you have sent ahead. Imam Al-Qurtubi did not write At-Tadhkira fi ahwal al-mauta wa umur al-Akhirah to plant fear in hearts but to awaken them from heedlessness. This book does not merely speak about death, it reveals how to live with awareness before it overtakes us and how to prepare for a moment we try to ignore every single day. The real question is not will we die, rather how will we be resurrected and with what kind of heart will we stand before Allah. First, why did Al-Qurtubi write this book? He witnessed in his time what we see today: deep attachment to worldly life, neglect of the afterlife, and a mindset that treats death as something distant and irrelevant. So he wrote this work as a truthful mirror for the human soul, a warning that shakes the heart awake, and a practical guide for what comes after this life. His approach was not abstract or theoretical. It was rooted in the Quran, the Sunnah, and the sayings of the companions and their successors. He painted scenes that stir the soul and awaken the conscience. Second, death, the truth that shows no favoritism. Imam Al-Qurtubi emphasizes that death makes no distinction, neither between rich and poor, nor young and old, nor strong and weak. We postpone thinking about it, yet it never postpones its arrival. We live as if life stretches endlessly. I'll become better later, I'll repent someday, there's still plenty of time. But the reality is far from that. The moment we keep delaying may be closer than we think.
Why did Imam Al-Qurtubi begin his discourse with death? Because he understood a profound psychological truth. The human heart does not truly awaken until it confronts its own end. That is why he did not begin with paradise or hell. He began with death. It is the one reality that shatters the illusion of permanence, breaks the ego, and forces a complete reordering of priorities. Today, we live in a culture that distances death from our awareness. It appears to us as a passing news, a statistic in a report, or a fleeting image on a screen. But Al-Qurtubi restores its true meaning. It is not a distant event, it is a personal certainty that will reach you. The inevitability of death, the certainty we try to escape. Al-Qurtubi establishes an undeniable principle. Every soul shall taste death. This is not a threat, it is a defining truth of life itself. We avoid thinking about death because it strips away our illusion of control, exposes our fragility, and confronts us with a question we would rather ignore. What does all of this really mean? Our modern reality is filled with noise, phones, social media, endless entertainment. Not because we truly love life, but because we are constantly running from the thought of its end. The truth is, those who never come to terms with death will never truly understand the value of living. The agony of death, the moment when all masks fall. Al-Qurtubi describes the throes of death as an overwhelming disturbance, pain in the body and awe within the soul. Even the prophets and the righteous experienced it. Suffering is not always punishment, but part of the natural law of transition. Why is it so intense? Because the soul is departing the body for the first time, leaving behind a familiar world for the unseen. In that moment, there is no room for pretense. The image a person crafted before others holds no value. No claims, no appearances will remain. What endures is only the truth of the heart. How many have appeared perfect in the eyes of people, yet neglected what lies within? Al-Qurtubi points to a sobering reality. a person dies on what he lived for. The unveiling of truth at the end. The moment of death is not merely an ending, it is a moment of complete clarity. A person sees with undeniable certainty where their life was spent, what truly mattered, and what was nothing but illusion. There all justifications vanish, and everything is revealed for what it is.
Regret after it's too late changes nothing. The real danger is not death itself, but reaching it without ever having lived with awareness. The true fear is not the moment of the end, but what that moment reveals. Death is not the closing of the story, it is the first test of a person's truth. Today, we fear many things: losing a job, people's opinions, financial uncertainty, yet we rarely worry about our hearts, our intentions, or the hidden reality of our deeds. The lesson is clear. Whoever rectifies what is within will not be terrified by the moment of departure. How do we prepare? Imam Al-Qurtubi does not leave the reader trapped in fear. He lays out a clear, practical path. Constant remembrance that softens the dread of transition. Repentance that is never delayed. Sincerity that weighs heavily on the scale. A shortened sense of worldly expectation that makes you live as if you are a traveler, and hidden deeds known only to God. Death is not an enemy, it is a mirror. Those who fear it run from it. Those who understand it prepare for it. And the message Al-Qurtubi emphasizes: do not live in panic of death, but do not let it catch you unprepared. Third, the grave, the first station of the hereafter. Al-Qurtubi establishes a striking truth. The grave is not an end, it is a beginning. It is the first test after death, the first direct encounter with the unseen, and the first taste of divine justice. We see it as a conclusion, but in reality it is a gateway. That is why the early generations used to say, whoever is saved there, what comes after is easier, and whoever stumbles there, what follows is far more severe. The moment of entry, absolute solitude. Al-Qurtubi paints a powerful scene. Loved ones walk away, the soil is placed, silence takes over, and every bond you thought was permanent comes to an end. The page of relationships is closed, and the page of personal accountability is opened. No friend, no status, no name, only you and your deeds. A painful lesson. We spend our lives building connections, yet we neglect preparing for that inevitable solitude. The questioning of the two angels, the test of truth. Two awe-inspiring angels arrive, asking questions that seem simple, yet carry immense depth. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? Who is your prophet? These are not questions of memorized information, they are lived realities. They are not answered with knowledge or eloquence, but with what has settled in the heart and manifested through actions. How much do we know, and how much of what we know do we truly live? Al-Qurtubi hints at a subtle truth. Your tongue may fail you, but your heart will not lie. The bliss of the grave, the beginning of peace. It is for the sincere believer, the one whose heart was attached to God, who purified his inner self before his outer appearance. It is not imagination, but reality. Expansion within the grave, a window opened towards paradise, and a tranquility that envelops the soul. A clear message. God does not delay all reward. He allows the believer to taste peace early. While we search for comfort in wealth, travel, or pleasure, Al-Qurtubi reminds us that true peace begins from within. The punishment of the grave, a consequence, not a sudden penalty. Imam Al-Qurtubi explains that the punishment of the grave is not a sudden act of vengeance, but a natural continuation of the life a person lived. What you planted there, you will find here.
Among its causes, he mentions hypocrisy, backbiting, dhulm, injustice, heedlessness, and neglecting the rights of others. How often do we justify our mistakes with phrases like, "Everyone does it, that's just how life is," or "God is forgiving and merciful"? But the truth Al-Qurtubi reminds us of is this: forgiveness does not mean carelessness, nor does it justify persistence in wrongdoing. A person who lives with a troubled conscience will not find peace when the truth is finally revealed. Does the dead feel? Al-Qurtubi affirms that the deceased is aware of what happens around them. They hear the footsteps of those who buried them, they perceive their state, and they experience either bliss or punishment. A profound lesson: death does not end awareness, it transfers it to another level. We fear losing consciousness, but the reality is that awareness remains, only without a body. How do we survive the trial of the grave? The path is not mysterious, it is clear for those who truly seek it. Honesty with God, consistent uprightness, constant remembrance of death, a deep connection with the Quran, and sincere supplication for steadfastness. Salvation is not in words, but in remaining firm. A decisive conclusion: the grave does not terrify except the one who has no answer. It does not dhulm anyone except the one who lived in the darkness of heedlessness. It is the place where the truth we long avoided is finally exposed, either the beginning of tranquility or the first shock, and the choice is being made right now. Resurrection, the day when everything is revealed. Why did Al-Qurtubi elaborate so deeply on this topic? Because human nature tends to forget distant consequences and delay thinking about them. So this discussion turns the unseen future into a vivid reality, unforgettable. What is resurrection? It is the complete restoration of the human being, body, soul, and memory. Not a single atom is lost, not a single moment is forgotten. The idea Al-Qurtubi emphasizes is that there is no total annihilation, no symbolic judgment, but a real return of everything that ever was. Whoever lived through their body will be held accountable through their body. In a time where mistakes are excused with phrases like, "I didn't mean it," or "I had no choice," resurrection stands as a firm declaration: everything is preserved, intentions before actions. The gathering, when all masks fall. People will be gathered barefoot, unclothed, without adornment, just as they were created the first time. Not as meaningless humiliation, but as the complete removal of everything that once concealed the truth. There, no titles will matter, no appearances will hold value, and nothing will carry weight except what was truly sincere within.
A message that shakes the heart. All the prestige we built in this world carries no weight there. We live in an age of image, brands, followers, appearances, but on that day, none of it remains, only the raw, unfiltered truth, the nearness of the sun, and sweat according to deeds. Imam Al-Qurtubi describes an overwhelming scene. The sun draws near, and people are drenched in their own sweat, but to different degrees, some to their ankles, some to their knees, and some nearly drowning in it. The scene is the same, but the suffering is not. Just as people differ in their struggles in this life, they will differ in their state in the hereafter. Preoccupation with the self, no one will save you. On that day, every person will be consumed with themselves. A father will not turn to his son, a wife will not look at her husband, and a friend will not ask about his friend. Every soul will be held by what it has earned. A clear lesson: excessive reliance on people is an illusion. True reliance must be on your own deeds. The flying records, the silent moment of confrontation. The moment of receiving the records is a moment of silent shock. Everything is documented with precision. Nothing small or great is overlooked. The surprise is not in the deeds themselves, but in how clearly they are laid out. We justify ourselves constantly, but that record knows no justification. The scale, where hearts are weighed. The scale is real, precise, and perfectly just. Not even the weight of an atom is wronged. And what weighs heaviest upon it? Sincerity and good character. Not every great act is truly al-azim, and not every small act is insignificant. How many kind words have elevated their sahib, and how many noble traits have changed a destiny. The principle Al-Qurtubi repeats, what is done for God endures. The bridge, a sirat, the most difficult crossing, a path finer than a hair and sharper than a blade. People will cross it according to their deeds, some like the blink of an eye, some like the wind, and some will stumble and fall. Just as steadfastness was difficult in this life, the crossing will be difficult there. The day of judgment, not a day of surprises, it is a day of unveiling. Everything we ignored, everything we justified, everything we concealed will appear in full clarity. Imam Al-Qurtubi's goal was not to frighten you, but to tell you plainly, set your life in order now, so that your standing there is lighter. Paradise and hell, an ending that begins now. Al-Qurtubi concludes with them because human beings do not truly move until they see the end clearly. Yet they are not distant tales, they are the natural extension of what we live today. This life is the seed, and the hereafter is the harvest.
How does Imam Al-Qurtubi tasawwar paradise? It is not an emotional reward, nor a poetic fantasy, but a realm of perfect justice and divine generosity, where the insan is given beyond what they can even imagine. A bliss beyond perception, what no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no human heart has ever conceived. Every pleasure we've known in this dunya is nothing more than a faint shadow of that na'im. Here we chase fleeting satisfactions that quickly fade, while there the joy never ends, never diminishes. The path to it? It is not easy, but it is not impossible. Al-Qurtubi makes it clear, paradise is not attained through wishful thinking, nor is it closed to the one who truly repents. It is a path of patience, striving, and sincerity. The problem is not that the road is too hard, but that we fail to remain steadfast upon it. The greatest reward? It is not the palaces nor the rivers, but the pleasure of God and the ability to behold Him. A deep message to the heart. Whoever truly loved God here will long to meet Him there. We tend to love only what we can see and touch, but Al-Qurtubi reshapes this meaning. When love is genuine, the unseen becomes real. Second, hellfire, the loss that could have been avoided. In Al-Qurtubi's understanding, hell is not an exaggerated warning nor symbolic fear, but a just reality, a consequence of human choice. A key insight: God did not create hell to dhulm, oppress, but to establish justice. Why do people enter it? Al-Qurtubi ties it to clear causes: arrogance, persistence in sin, injustice, and taking wrongdoing lightly. A sin may be forgiven, but insisting upon it leads to destruction. We often repeat, God is forgiving and merciful. Our hearts are good. But Al-Qurtubi distinguishes between true hope and deceptive complacency. The most painful part of punishment is not only physical suffering, but regret, sorrow, and the crushing realization of a missed opportunity. A person does not suffer only because they are punished, but because they could have been saved and chose not to be. Justice and mercy, the true balance. Al-Qurtubi rejects the image of a harsh God without mercy, just as he rejects the idea of mercy without accountability. Paradise and hellfire together form a message of balance, so that the sinner does not despair and the heedless does not feel safe. The deeper meaning? Paradise and hell do not begin only there, they begin here. With subtle insight, Al-Qurtubi points out whoever lives with inner peace has tasted something of paradise, and whoever lives in inner conflict has tasted something of hell. A reflection on our lives today. Peace, anxiety, contentment, envy, these are all small previews of what awaits us. Paradise is not far away. Hell is not a sudden surprise. Both of them begin now, within you.
The conclusion Imam Al-Qurtubi wanted you to reach. He is not telling you choose now or be doomed. He is drawing your attention to something more subtle. You are already choosing, every single day, even without realizing it. So choose what you would want to face when the journey comes to an end. In the end, nothing from this world will remain with you. Not the house that exhausted you to build, not the name you fought to defend, not the image you carefully crafted for others to see. Only one thing remains: who you truly were when you were alone, when no one was watching. At-Tadhkira fi أحوال الموتى وأمور الآخرة was not written to create fleeting fear, but to plant a lasting awareness. Its message is clear. Death is not the disaster. The real disaster is reaching it without being aware. The grave is not darkness. The darkness is entering it with an unpurified heart. The day of judgment is not dhulm. It is the only day when everything is returned to its rightful place. Paradise is not a distant dream. It is a true promise for those who are true. Hell is not revenge. It is the outcome of a long path where we ignored the signs. This book does not ask you, do you fear death? It places before you a harder question. Are you ready to meet God in your current state? If the answer is no, then the opportunity is still there. The breath is still in your chest. The door is not closed, and the path, despite its difficulty, is still clear. Do not delay change. Do not gamble on a lifespan you do not own. Do not pile up heedlessness and then expect a good ending to arrive suddenly. Live with a light heart, a sincere intention, and little attachment to what fades. Because in the end, you will not be asked, how long did you live, but how did you live? This is not the end of words. It is the beginning of awakening. Peace be upon the one who reads and remembers, the one who listens and changes, and the one who understands and prepares.